Welcome to Beyond the Blend, the podcast that goes behind the science and talks to the people at the heart of the lubricant market, telling the real story of the people who make the lubricant market move. With real insight and honest conversations, we aim to show off the people's side from across the entire lubricant supply chain. Join me, Steve Knapp, and Rob Taylor as we delve behind the scenes of the lubricant industry. Let's go. Okay, welcome along to a very special Beyond the Blend. It's a Beyond the Blend first, as we don't welcome one guest, but we welcome two. So I'm excited for what lies ahead for the next 45 minutes or so. But as is tradition with Beyond the Blend, we are going to start with our famous Quickfire 5. So before we introduce our guests, I'm going to reel off the 5 questions of this episode. Perhaps you might be able to guess who we're speaking to. So the first of our 5, who's more likely to bring work into a weekend conversation?
I think Paul will definitely be the one.
That would definitely be me.
Be the one to bring work home, yeah.
Start with a nice, easy one, huh?
Yeah, you can rarely switch your brain off, whereas I kind of like to use the weekends to recuperate.
Who's the optimist when things feel stuck?
I think I am. I think we both are. I think I tend to not knee-jerk in the moment, and I think things are rarely as bad as they might seem. So I don't react quickly.
Yeah, I'm definitely an optimist. I think both of us, yeah, I agree with Collette. It's one of those things in life that you become aligned, I suppose. So, and we can obviously gauge what's going on in the world and understand optimism is quite important, really.
Who's going to press send on that risky email?
Paul.
That will definitely be
we
me.
can't see you pointing there, Collette.
Oh, yeah.
Did you say that?
Yeah.
I pointed to myself, you just couldn't see it. Yeah, that would definitely be me. Yeah, I'm a very quick fire reader. I take the information in very rapidly, so I'll make the decision there and then get it done.
Whereas I would spend I'd read something 5 times and be a bit more considered before I hit that send button.
We've agreed on all so far. I need to find something that you disagree with. Who's going to cope better if the other disappeared for a week?
Because I already do. Paul travels obviously a hell of a lot, and so I'm already used to kind of keeping everything moving when he's not in the office and balancing that with home life.
Well, they collect with a 9-year-old and an 18-year-old in there, and the house and the business. So, and I disappear off for weeks at a time. So yeah, Colette's the one to cope better. I don't think I'd be able to cope. You'd see me running the other way.
Yeah, running after her.
Yeah.
And the final one, one word each to describe working together.
I'd say 2 words: a healthy challenge.
Yeah, challenge is a very good word. I think to be very honest, there's obviously a big age difference, as you can see. But I think my experience in the past has always been a bit massive negative. You know, husband and wife working together, and we've been obviously together for 14 years. Yeah, it's worked out very well. It really has. It's got tougher as we got busier and bigger, but certainly, yeah, it is a challenge, I'd say.
Yeah, good. I think that's a very healthy perspective, and it's why I'm glad that you're both here, and why, I feel fortunate and grateful for you both to be here, because it is quite a unique discussion, isn't it? As we welcome, well, never mind the fact that we've got 2 guests, it's the fact that you're husband and wife. And I think for me, that brings with it such an interesting dynamic, because not only are you building a successful and growing business, you are married, which we're going to go into and see how that plays out, because I'm also married and couldn't think of anything worse than to work with my wife. So, Paul, I'm all ears. But yes, Collette and Paul from Delta Xero, thank you very much for finding time in your busy schedules. We're going to dive into a bit of introductions about who you are. So, Collette, if you could kick us off. What do you do, and where do you sit in this partnership at Delta Xero?
Yeah, so obviously I'm Delta Xero's COO. I've never been the technical person in the business that has the understanding and the knowledge on the fluid side of things. But I'd like to think intuitively and successfully, I've built the systems that control how we operate, and it's always about being, for me, laying the foundations to scale. And I'm always happy to question, much to Paul's annoyance, I'm happy to question why. Why are we doing things a certain way? And I think I've been a bit of a grounding influence.
Yeah, good. And Paul, tell us about yourself a little bit. Who are you?
What's your role? I'm the CEO. I just do as I'm told. Is that the easiest way to put it? No. So I think I'm the, if you could imagine, I think with the partnership and what my job is, I'm the innovator. I was the original founder, and inventor of the product. So what I am is, I suppose, the bow of the ship where I'm fighting through the waves and Colette's behind me making sure everything's left tidy, which in the early days it wasn't, as you can imagine, because I have this sort of brain that works at 100 miles an hour and I need someone behind me. So it's worked actually very, very well the way we actually push it. So my role really is innovation. I obviously helped with sales in the early days, not so much now. I'm more of looking at strategy, future strategies and how we work. And that's my main role in the business now. We obviously got some great staff that do a lot of the things that Collette and I used to do, but now they've been taken over and we can set strategy between ourselves.
Yeah, good. Just remind us, for those that don't know, Delta Xero, what is your focus? Where do you sit? Tell us what Delta Xero does.
Yeah, Delta Xero, I mean, the innovation, the idea behind it was, I mean, we've got a lot going on sustainability in the world and, why do people change oil? So we've accomplished that. You don't need to change oil in most applications. I think the important thing is to make the world a better place. It's a very simple product, but it's a very complicated way of doing things. And the most important thing for us is giving customers uptime, reduced maintenance, reduced oil changes or zeroing oil changes. And that's the important thing for us. Sustainability is a big tick box on what we do, without a doubt.
Well, solving a problem for the customers, obviously, with regards to predictive maintenance and the breakdowns they're experiencing, they don't necessarily understand. I think there's a big shift in the understanding in the industry now, but back even when I, 14 years ago, when I came involved, it seems that the narrative has changed now. People are understanding that oil is causing a lot of these issues, I think, but I don't know if that was necessarily the case 15 years ago.
No, it wasn't. I think a lot of people didn't understand. And now the knowledge, the introduction of AI and where people can just say a few words and get the answer tends to be problem solving. And that's exactly what our company's based on. We're not just a box mover. We like to solve a problem. And even if we can't, we can put them onto somebody who can. But invariably we can do that. So that's the important thing. That's what our business is based on, solving the problems out there in the world.
Yeah, and you seem to be very much in demand. It's taken us 2 or 3 goes to get you both in a room. So it's but we finally got here. I think last time I spoke to Collette, you were on your way back from Dubai, then you were off to Denmark the day after, and how do you do it? It's just crazy.
I think you switch off, you get used to it. I suppose it's like anything. People who walk a lot get used to it. People who run a lot get used to it. I get on a plane. For me, I just switch off and just deal with it.
I think you need that stimulation. I think you need to always be knowing where you're going next, what you're doing.
It's a long-term plan. My travel itinerary this year is completely monstrous. It really is. It was supposed to cut down, but where we got busier, I'm required everywhere in the world. So, and yeah, you get used to it. It is quite tough, don't get me wrong. Being away from the family and the staff and whatever is probably the hardest thing. Myself, it's not an issue.
Yeah, and how many, we were having this chat in our business here. We've been traveling a little bit this past year or two, and it does put challenges on you and strains on it, doesn't it? It can be. I don't think people realize the person that's doing the traveling also feels a bit of the pull, because it's almost like, I'm not saying it's like you're on a holiday, but it's like you're seeing all these places, which comes with some fun, and you get to see parts of the world. But it does have that, not guilt, but you always miss the home life, if you like. And I like your answer earlier about who'd cope better if the other disappeared for a week. I'm with you, Paul. If my wife went away for a week and left me with our kids, I'd be all over the place. But to have that foundation at home is
I think
to have that foundation at home is very helpful.
Yeah, I agree. I think though that, like you said, it's not a holiday, and I've never been one to, when Paul's been flying off to these places and thinking that he's jet setting and having a wonderful time. I know he's there for work, and you're not there then getting off the plane and going onto a sun lounger and sitting at the pool on a hotel. And I attempted some travel with you last year, I think it was, and I went to America to meet a master distributor that we have, and I went to some various other places. And to be honest, I absolutely hated it. I didn't like it whatsoever. It was kind of nice in a way that the business didn't need me to be there and I could have the opportunity. But looking back, okay, I've got some nice memories, but to be honest, I'm in no rush to do it again. Like just the airports, the planes, the waiting times. It did give me, and my anxiety went through the roof. I just didn't, I'm not a keen flyer anyway. And it did give me that insight and appreciation that although I was never kind of didn't, what's the word? Although I didn't appreciate what you did, it generally gave me a better insight to the realities of it. And yeah, I don't know how he does it. I genuinely don't know, because I couldn't do it. I definitely couldn't do it.
It's good to see the other side of the coin, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's tough, and I don't even drink when I go away.
You don't even drink?
I don't drink on aircraft or anything, so I'm, you sit there and it's quite an amazing thing. And you're looking around yourself. Obviously, people ready to go on holiday, and there's you with your laptop out, still working, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning. You forget the time zones, but yeah, it does. As I've got older, it gets a little bit tougher, and I'm not traveling as much as I used to, but still, I've got quite a heavy itinerary for the rest of the year.
Yeah, good. Well, I suppose that's wholly positive for the business, isn't it? I mean, what a journey you're going through. It's fantastic to watch and see what's happening. I want to just dig into this working together as a couple piece, if I can, for a little bit. 'Cause, I mentioned in the intro, I could never work with my wife. It's nuts, and I'm sure she'd say the same about me. She could probably never work with me either. So how do you do it? You've been working together for 14 years, Collette. Is that correct?
We've been together over 14 years.
12 years.
We've been working for about
12 and a half.
Yeah. To be honest, I really think it's quite simple. I think we've always been working towards the same goal. So although we have very different abilities, it's about putting those to good use and in the same direction. And that's been our strengths. I think ultimately we've always wanted the end result, and we just would both get there in different ways. But so I couldn't do Paul's job, as I mentioned earlier, and he definitely wouldn't to do mine. But at the end of the day, they both have to be done.
Yeah, I think it's as when we first met. Obviously, again, I was leading from the front, and as Collette got older and got more experience within this sort of industry, we then leveled up in that respect and realised that we have two completely different roles. So, albeit I'm in one office, one side of the factory, and Colette's in the office, the other side. The communications, not a huge amount of communications because we don't need to, because we know the systems in place actually running the business.
I could never share an office with you.
We couldn't share an office together. I think that would,
We've done it.
That would be painful for me. That we did in the early days, but I don't think we could now. But certainly where we understand our roles within the business, it works actually extremely well. We know where we are, what we formalize, and how we do things. And I think that's what we built to make it a lot easier. So yeah, it works. It does work. And yes, sometimes it's tough. Of course it is. Nothing's ever perfect. Of course it's not. But certainly
we ultimately always just, like I say, it's the same goal. We're working towards the same end result. It's just we go about it differently, and it's then appreciating that each other's skills are both required within the business. Like I said, Paul couldn't do my job and I couldn't do his. You need those different skills. You need the entrepreneurial, the visionary, the strategy, but then you need the organisation and like I say, that grounding, calming influence, and someone who questions everything. You need them in order to kind of have good coverage, I'm guessing.
I could make the house look great, but if the foundation's about, it'll fall over. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
So.
It won't look great for long, right? Yeah.
Not exactly,
I'm my own worst enemy for taking work home with me. It's like switching off. We all have these devices in our hands, and emails never shut down. If you're in a global business, it's always breakfast somewhere, isn't it? And I think, how do you build boundaries in together so you're not taking work home all the time, and you do get that sort of, I guess, you time rather than Delta Xero time? Does that happen, or are you just happy to let it bleed across?
No, to be honest, I think it's just a natural. I think as the business has evolved, being able to switch off at weekends has become easier because you've started to delegate different positions and different responsibilities, to other people. So if you see some emails coming in that might be coming into the sales inbox, it's not your place anymore to start jumping in and taking ownership of those emails, because you can't give someone the responsibility of a task but not the authority to complete it. So you kind of have to learn to switch off. That's not for me to do anymore. And I just think that, once you do walk through that front door, it might take an hour or so to switch off, but once you do switch off, you're pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things. I mean, certainly technical was obviously my regime, where you'd have people emailing you and texting you and WhatsApping you at early hours of the morning. I still answer them.
Struggle with that, yeah.
I do answer them now, 3 and 4 in the morning quite regularly, but that's getting less and less. We've obviously got Marielle on board, and we've got other people coming on board, very, very capable of the technical side of it. So it's going to make my life easier. I mean, the last 7 or 8 weeks, we've been obviously refurbishing the office and building meeting rooms and etc. to expand the business. So I got involved in that because it was more for the staff to make sure everything was clean and tidy when they walked through the door. But
minimum disruptions.
Yeah, you can't disrupt the sort of workplace. So yeah, but other than that, I agree with Collette. We tend to sit down. I mean, this Sunday was the first Sunday I'd had off in months, and I sat there and did nothing. I didn't even answer my phone. I just left it. But for me to be able to do that 3 years ago, that would have just been impossible. I mean, forget it. It's 18 hours a day, never stop.
Yeah. You see, sometimes I struggle to deliberately switch off. I've tried that before. Like, all right, it's Sunday, I'm doing nothing to do with work. I quite enjoy my work. I'm sure you guys do too. So for me, I don't mind the checking of it. I wouldn't do it at 3 a.m. I think that's pushing my boundaries.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, that deliberate switching off, I just find myself getting a bit bored and not really knowing what to do, to be honest. I think if you love what you do, it doesn't particularly matter as long as it doesn't become consuming, potentially.
Yeah, I don't so much switch off. What I do is just change focus slightly. So what I'll do, I'll focus less on work and focus more on what's going on. So there you go. I've just done 2,000-piece puzzles just to keep myself going. The problem is with me, I won't sit there until they're done. So 8 hours later, say, right, I've sorted that out, and I'm going to look for the next one.
Yeah. Underestimated how long you thought. You were like, oh yeah, I'll have this done by the evening, and it did take about a week.
The Harry Potter one took me a week. Bear in mind, I'm getting old, and it was all black virtually. So you're trying to get black on black on black. It was just ridiculous. So that took me a little bit
ramming one piece into the other.
Yeah. I had the scissors out in the end.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I remember at Christmas time we got a 1,000-piece Lego jigsaw with the kids. And it ended up being just me at my dining room table getting angry at it. They'd gone off to do actual Lego, and I was finding corners. It was like,
we started off helping, didn't we? Our little one and I. But then we kind of got a bit bored. Enough due to do it.
And that was my job then for the next couple of weeks in between travelling, of course.
Yeah.
Well, it was annoying me because it was taking up space on my coffee table, and I was like, when are you going to get this done and out of the way?
See, that's the problem, isn't it? We finished this 1,000-piece jigsaw and we couldn't move the bloody thing.
We've had no, we framed it.
We framed the Harry Potter one.
See, there's an idea.
It's not on display anywhere yet. It's just stuck in the spare room.
It's because it's got a blob of wax on it from the candle that was lit, which we never noticed till we put it in the frame.
We framed it.
We won't mention that bit. The joys of working together, should we say? Look,
yeah, brilliant. Oh dear. So let's get back to professional versions of ourselves. Paul, I'd like to focus on you for a little bit, if we can. Your journey. I think when we first met, I seem to remember you talking about used cars or car sales.
Yeah,
and that's certainly not a Portsmouth accent that you have there. So.
No.
How the heck did you end up on the South Coast? And tell us a bit about your background.
It's a very unusual one. I came from a very unusual background in respect of Middlesbrough. I was originally born. My father was a fire officer, and my mother was a secretary to the local refinery Shell, and then moved to being a school secretary. I then I had an unusual one where I was quite a bright child at school, but what then happened is that I refused to do the jobs that I was expected to do and went to be an apprentice mechanic, which was very interesting, but a little bit not my sort of scene, so to speak. I then bumped into my cousin who'd moved down south in the South Coast. I just won some money by doing very well at my job, so I decided to come down here. And then 2 weeks later, I moved. Someone offered me a job there and then while I was staying here for the long weekend, and moved down to Fareham, Hampshire, and never moved back. I went through all sorts of different unusual jobs, from algorithms to going back into the motor trade and setting up car supermarkets as they're seen now, with the same day drive away car supermarket, which is not something I loved, but it was just more the mathematics of it all and making it work and how we produced it. And it did work very, very well. And then bumped into somebody that was doing leakage detection for gas and air leaks, which I then produced a piece of software with a friend of mine. Well, I did the algorithms, he did the software. And I then sold that company, so it was detecting leaks and the cost and obviously sustainability, reducing power consumption. And in the meantime, bumped into someone who's filtering oil. And I kept looking at myself, why are we changing oil? This is a bit unusual. While I was sat in offices and started reading about oil, this is nearly 20 years ago. And then I thought it was one of my innovation ideas. And it piqued my interest, definitely. And I said, well, look, why do we change oil? And I couldn't get my head around it. What is it? I understand in engines, that's slightly different. We can extend it. But hydraulic system has been under the ground for hundreds of millions of years. So I then started studying it, bumped into a filter company, started working with them. So look, I can design something different, which is capillary technology, which we've got now. And I sat in my garage and made my garage into a lab. And then one day it came out. I produced it with 3D printing and all sorts of other innovative ideas. and then went across to the most skeptical man in the world in Norway, who's one of our shareholders now. Showed him it. He rang me about a week later and said, "Wow, this works, Paul." I said, "Good." And then by April 2019, we're in production. So a very, very unusual journey. And in the meantime, I was in the financial industry as well. So I did things that I liked. So yeah, it was quite an interesting journey. And here we are now, manufacturer OEM of a filter system that does the job, shall we say. So yeah, a weird journey.
It's a varied one, isn't it? I just want to rewind back to you decided to move down the south coast of the UK after spending a weekend there.
Yeah.
That actually happened. You uprooted.
Yeah.
It was a sunny weekend.
It was a sunny weekend. I turned up with the winter clothes. You mentioned in Middlesbrough. I'm obviously being a smoggy, as I'm called, known as in Middlesbrough. I came down with winter clothes and it was like 23 degrees. Well, home it was 11. So I'm thinking, what? So I had to go down to Burton's, the tailors down the road, which is we all remember in the old days. Get some summer clothes, sitting outside in a pub thinking, this is ridiculous. You don't do that in Middlesbrough. Bumped into a guy on the Friday, which was bank holiday, who worked around the corner. And then on the Saturday, he turned up and said, "Can I have a chat with you?" And he said, "Look, I've seen your qualifications. Do you want a job?" So I went up, drove home on the following Tuesday, handed my notice in, and 2 weeks later, I packed my stuff up and I'd moved down at 17 years old. That's exactly what happened. And funny enough,
17 as well. Wow.
I was 17, about a month before my 18th birthday. One of the unusual things for me is that I then went and did my other things, running around doing different sort of projects, what have you, and really probably a learning curve. And ended up going back to the garage I used to work for, but that's when we set up the used car supermarket with him. And by then he'd set up franchises and he'd expanded his business quite rapidly. And I ended up the managing director of the whole company within 14 months. So yeah, it was a very, very unusual journey. Loved cars, never liked selling them. not my bag.
Well, it turns out you were quite good at it, I guess.
Yeah.
It seemed that way, yeah.
Yeah. So just fill me in on the timeline then. Did you almost innovate the first online car supermarket? Well, it wasn't online, was it? But car supermarket.
Not online.
You made a little thing until you started doing this.
The same day drive with car supermarkets. So basically what you could do is you'd pull up with your part exchange, park a car, and off you'd go. We'd have you pre-cleared on finance. We used to advertise in some of the major press and obviously online then, which was teletext, which you can imagine. That was a cult. Yeah, exactly, old school. And it worked very well. We had a admin team, we had a delivery, and the salesman never delivered cars. I designed a delivery department, a separate department for induction, admin departments, telesales. So I set the whole thing up from scratch, and it worked very well. We used to do a huge amount of business. It was a monster. My chairman at the time was an extremely happy chap. I still keep in contact with him now, 43 years later. But certainly, yeah, it was one of those just ideas. I thought, well, why wait 5 days for a car? You can take delivery. We used to deliver 60 or 70 cars a weekend. So,
Wow. So have you always been, from a kid, have you always been sort of entrepreneurial? Because it sounds like you're either entrepreneurial, problem solving, or a bit of both. I mean, have you always had a bit of a knack for that?
I think problem solving's always been the one. I always look at something, if I'm interested, I'll go and find out why we can't do it better. And I think that's been the important thing for me. Yeah, look at something and think, well, this is very simple. And you see some of these games on TV, and I look at them in 10 seconds round the circles. Well, it's easy. Well, actually, it isn't apparently, but I don't know any difference. So
Fraser will give you like his Rubik cubes.
I've got a Rubik cube, but so there you go, and hand it back to him. And but it's one of those unusual things. Yeah, I've been a problem solver, but then as I got older, the entrepreneurial side came out, because obviously you've got to earn a living. It's okay being slightly smart, but you need to pay the bills. So I started setting up businesses, and I sold a couple. And so I've had an interesting journey with how to tout.
Sounds fantastic. And can you actually finish a Rubik's Cube? Out of all that, the most important question, can you actually do a Rubik's Cube?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's an algorithm, isn't it? It's a very simple one. The four square one is the hardest, believe it or not.
Well,
The big one's dead easy. The 4 square one, because it's awkward, I lose interest. That's the problem with it. But yeah, stuff like that and palindromic numbers and stuff like that are not a problem. I can look at them and pick them out. So yeah, it's quite unusual.
Well, I mean, talk about algorithms, but does that mean you're into like sort of computer programming algorithms?
No, the algorithms I was looking at were more process, like a process. How do we actually, and I call it an algorithm, it's probably the wrong word for it, where you look at a process and say, well, if we change it in between and you write it down, like you can imagine like a chemical formula to say, how's this going to work? The end result needs to be the same, but actually getting there needs to be completely changed. If you're going to sell a product, or why don't you change the way the product's actually not manufactured, but certainly processed. Why not, in the car game, why not get the car ready with a code on it to say that car's ready serviced, you can actually drive it where there and then, as opposed to waiting 6 weeks for parts to turn up. These are silly things. It sounded normal now, but in those days it was, I mean, we were using QR codes, which were very basic then, never mind. There was no internet as such. So yeah, normally a problem solver, look at it and then innovate and then move it forward. But certainly algorithms, it was more of a process driven, using numeric values as opposed to writing it down. Colette's extremely good at writing everything down. You give me numbers and I'm great at them. I can start flicking through numbers and I'll be able to do a process by calling it a 63 and a 44 and a 72, when in actual fact it's got a big set of writing between that tells you the process itself. So slightly different dynamic and thought process, really.
It's more that you can, you're very natural, like I say, we're coming back to that problem solving ability. It's more that you've got this vision and other people don't understand your vision or kind of potentially see your vision. And then when it actually materializes like 6 months later, you're like, oh, that's what I've done. But you don't necessarily see the pieces in between that, because you can see them, but you don't to articulate that to.
Yeah. I was always very good at Lego as a kid. Never used very many instructions.
Flat pack furniture, nailed it.
Oh, I'm the best at IKEA. You want any IKEA, Bill? I'm the man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's fantastic listening and learning about that and how you behave and think, and how I guess Collette can see that and you complement each other. Lubricant Expo and the Bearing Show North America returns to Detroit from March 17 to 19, 2026. Meet leading companies showcasing the latest technologies in lubrication, bearings, reliability, condition monitoring and plant performance, all in one place. You'll join engineering, maintenance, procurement and R&D professionals, plus OEMs and end users. Attend our world-class conference, network and strengthen professional relationships, access workshops and training sessions, all completely free. This is where new partnerships are formed, deals are done, and the future of industrial reliability is shaped. Register now at lubricantexpo.com/NA. Collette, just tell us a bit about your journey as well, because it's great hearing from Paul. It's nice to see the other side of the coin. So where did you come from? What's your journey to where you are now? Did you always dream of filtration?
No. No, but I think I've always been whenever I've put my heart to something, I'll always make sure I do it properly, and I'm not slippy shouldered, as it were. So I initially was a legal secretary for about 3 years for the senior partner of a firm in the litigation department, and that kind of teaches you obviously about being diligent with everything, because you have to be meticulous. Then I had my son, and I had a change of heart I was going to train to be a legal executive, but I ended up wanting to train to be a midwife. So I volunteered at weekends because I didn't have any healthcare experience. So while I was still working as a legal secretary, did volunteering at the local hospital in the maternity department, built up enough experience that I was then able to apply for a support worker position on the maternity wards, and I got that. And again, I did quite well. I loved that job. It was that's the type of job when you work for the NHS, you do it for a passion, not for the pay or anything like that. But again, I loved that so much that a lot of the midwives that I would work with on shift will be like, Collette, you have to do your midwifery degree. So I started my access to nursing course so I could go and do midwifery. But then I met Paul, and that's when I started helping out. I had some spare time. I was working like 30 hours a week because I had my son, so I wasn't full-time equivalent. And so I started helping out part-time in the office with Paul. And it's just one of those things, once you start getting your teeth into something, I have to just give it my all. And that's when it's like, where did the priorities lie for us as a family? What was more beneficial for us as a family? And that's where I gave up doing the maternity support worker, and I just stepped into whatever the business needed from me at the time. So I've literally touched on every part from the early days. So I've not just been the operations, I've done finance, I've even packed up orders. I've never built the filtration systems, thankfully. I think because I've stepped into so many areas of the business for such a long time now, I'm probably one of the most people I'm probably the best placed person that has the most holistic view of the business and how it all connects, and then where the decisions ripple through. So I think that's given me a good grounding in order to scale the business. So I think that's just been, I've always just been, whatever I put my mind to, I always have to just do it to expect high quality and do things right.
One of Colette's original introduction into business, I helped a friend and I set up him in a plumbing business, plumbing and heating business. And he was a close friend of mine that I'd met before I'd met Collette. And so I set the business up and said, look, Collette, this is a good introduction for you as a small business to get used to it, to see what, the trials and tribulations of a new business. And it actually went very, very well. He ended up buying it off us, and Collette obviously then became full-time within the business we've got now. So that was
in the
beautiful.
hospital. I had Nathan, because you were still doing your leakage detection business and everything like that.
And the filter business at the time, both.
We had given some capital to a friend to help him get the van and his tooling. But obviously he was very good doing the jobs and getting to the quality of the bathrooms done. And as with anything when Paul's involved, it never ended up just being your local bathroom fitting company. We ended up having contracts with Wix, B&Q, Bath Store. And that's where...
I forgot about that one.
Yeah. And that's when I then I was taking phone calls at the hospital in the toilet because, I was having suppliers on the phone to me, and it was just like, this is where I was saying it came back to what was more beneficial for the business. And it wasn't beneficial taking phone calls in the toilets or on your breaks when you're working in the hospital. So that's when I left to do that. But essentially we left. Nathan and his wife decided that they wanted to move down to Cornwall. So they took the business on themselves and they've picked it up, and they're now doing exactly the same thing down in Cornwall. Yeah. And Nathan really attributes a lot of his successes to your work ethic and what you the values that you taught him.
Yeah, he's a close friend and he's still got the same business. He's still doing very, very well for himself. So,
and if we ever go down and visit, he'll always make sure that he's gone and got his van cleaned, because he's like, Paul's coming down, I have to get the van cleaned.
Yeah, it's his own business. He worries about me complaining about his van. Here we go. Come see, come sell.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I love how a small plumbing and heating business had contracts with Wix and B&Q.
Oh, yeah, it was
just that small detail that you missed out from your journeys there. That's new to me, that Collette, from our times together, about the midwifery journey, because my wife always spoke about wanting to become a midwife. I don't know if it's from having kids. She's just got this passion for it, but the route into it was so difficult, she found.
It is. I was very
so
fortunate.
Long almost to get there.
Yeah, I was really fortunate. Once I managed to get through the door, the minimum requirements, entry requirements changed. So you had to have like a health and social care qualification, like level 2 minimum or something, or 3. I was very fortunate when I managed to get in. It was, you could either have those or experience. So which is why I'd done the volunteering route, so I could get the experience. And obviously I had my foot in the door. So when I could hear that job vacancies were coming up, I could get my application in. And so, but it's not quite, doesn't work quite like that anymore.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said just for lived experience of things, isn't there?
Yeah.
We got 4 kids together, but she still needs a piece of paper to say she can look after kids at a nursery. It's there's a real balance, isn't there? And I guess that comes through in your business as well. I guess the entrepreneurial spirit goes, the experience. Do you allow for mistakes? Are you building that culture for growth through that, where mistakes are allowed to happen? Or are you quite rigid in how you're growing?
I 100% believe I've learned from making mistakes. There are there's mistakes that I can think, which is someone like why I double check things a million times, is because I remember working in the solicitor's office, and I once sent our entire case to the other solicitor on the other sides before a court tribunal, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I hit that send button and the solicitor's on the phone. He's like really calm and collected, and he just picks up the phone and speaks to the other solicitor on the other side and explains that he's received this, and he was there tapping his fingers and he's thinking, would I read that if I'd received it? And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get sacked. But it's just you learn from your mistakes. And so I'm an avid believer in that.
I think if people make mistakes, you don't lambast them too much. You actually train them not to do it next time. I think that's the important thing. I mean, there's too many people go out there with a whip and say, you've got to do it right. Yes, we like to do it right, but there's certain mistakes. If you keep doing them, then whose fault is it? Is it ours for not training them correctly, or flagging it, or is it theirs for not being it? So, it's the amount of times in the past I've looked at 2 people that were average at the job, but then you swap them into 2 different roles and swap them, and they become absolute superstars. But it's just finding people's true vocation in life, isn't it?
This is it. I find it's a lot about that. That there's like 70% triangle or something like that. It's like 70% attitude, 20% skills, 30% knowledge, or something like that, if that equals 100.
It was 110.
There we go. 20. So, see, I don't do the finance. So,
As you see, I exaggerated to put an extra 10 on there for you.
but I think if you can have someone that's got the right attitude, that accounts for a lot. And I also like to reflect. And I think if someone is making mistakes, then I think I kind of then look at that a bit more inwardly, and I think, well, what do I need to do as someone that's leading the business? What do I need to make sure that we need to adapt and do differently to make sure that the correct processes are in place to stop those things happening?
We're very process driven.
Yeah.
Very process driven.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you find process driven, Paul? How do you find that potential rigidness of process and structure in a mind and a brain that's so creative and potentially wild, where the good things come from? How do you manage that into process as well?
I think it's just allowing the fact that what happens. I mean, it's like the sales process. The sales process I have is very archaic now. The new sales process has a very similar line, but how it's accomplished is completely different and way beyond what I'm used to. So, hence the reason why, you have people come in to show you how to do it, or show the new people how to do it, because I'm not capable. So what I do, I step back and I look at the process, and I totally agree with it.
You love process.
I love process. I'm a very process-driven person, but I think it's important for me, and I think that's why, again, going back to our relationship, I can get all this huge, great cloud of lunacy, shall we call it, hand it to Collette, and Collette makes it look right, where I wouldn't, because it comes across as this complete madman has actually written this. But you've got some people understand it and say, yeah, I agree, but how do we make this go to the general public out there to make it look good? Well, obviously, we've got quite a few people now with Marielle and what have you, but Colette's obviously been the person there that says, right, I'll take this off Paul, I'll make it normal.
You don't
as normal as possible.
Yes. I mean, Paul appreciates and understands the need for all the processes in the business, but you don't necessarily need to have to follow them. I'm saying, but you do, but you don't. As long as the correct processes are in place to extract what's going on up there, you don't need to be the one inputting into the CRM.
I don't involve myself in production. I mean, I was involved heavily earlier on, but then obviously my limit came to the point where that's where I could stand. I never did production before, so we started with virtually nothing. A press, a few bag of tools, and away we went, and to where we are now. So for me, I've handed over to somebody else. Admin, we all did it together. It was whatever we could do. I don't get involved in that because it's not my bag, so to speak. So now I'm the strategist now. So when things happen in 6 or 8 months down the line, it's me who's been planning them. And obviously the way we're strategizing globally from our master dealer, they're the things I've been working on for nearly a year, and I knew it was going to happen. Now it's rolling out very, very nicely, and it's working extremely well. So yeah, I find it a lot easier because I know the needed processes is required in any company that's expanding. And if you start kicking that process out the door, you'll fail. Simple as that. So I've got to stick. It's not easy, don't get me wrong, but it's just getting used to them. If I want something done in production, I go to the person, hand it to them, sign it and say, can we do this? And when can we do it? Not just pop upstairs and say, can you build me this? Where 4 or 5 years ago we could do that. Now that's not right. It wouldn't work. It would completely mess the place up. So
it's interesting listening to it, because I guess it introduces some unique challenges, doesn't it? You've grown the business to a successful point as it is now with your approach and your, I guess, repeatable process potentially. Whereas now, if you want to scale, someone needs to be able to walk into the business and know exactly what to do. Whereas I guess they can't scale your mind. And I guess I've seen it before in businesses that are trying to scale. They're trying to mirror and expand the business owner. Whereas what they need to do is get it all out and process it all. And I think
that's a single point failure.
Unique challenges.
Yeah, we've identified obviously that in order to scale, we've looked at within the business, and we have identified obviously Paul as a single point failure. So we've obviously been starting to implement things to circumnavigate that, like bringing on board Plan, Grow, Do with the sales processes, because although I've done a lot of the operational processes that have brought us to today, I know that sales isn't my expertise. So this is where, in order to scale, you start bringing in the people around you that are better at what they do. They're the experts. That's what they do. So I think it's actually a growth accelerator using companies like yourself, Plan, Grow, Do, or getting a mentor in the business who's then started looking after production for us. They actually can accelerate your growth because, you don't know it all, and you need to, once you've got the ability to do so, to get the external support in, I think that's a massive benefit to the business and helping it scale.
I think it's important, like I said earlier on, going back and looking at the sales process. The sales process is very similar, but the new way of doing it is exactly what's required. Absolutely 100%. And for me, I think that's the way to innovate. I innovate by other people coming and showing us how it's done this today, not 30 years ago when I used to do it, because 30 years ago it's finished with. It's
like
archaic.
Teletext newspaper.
You know, if it's old school, the process might be very similar, meet and greet and qualify, but how do you do that and how do you get there? There's AI involved. There's obviously social
and the reach
media.
is a lot further now.
And the reach is different and people's mindset. And to be honest with you, I'm a dinosaur when it comes to that sort of thing. But for me to see it work, I love it. I'll promote that 100% and promote any other systems that make the business work. And I think that's a tough one. A lot of businesses slowed down by CEOs saying, well, I built this business. It should run how I should run it. No, it shouldn't. It should run how the people underneath you and the staff and managers run it, because you're there as the innovator then and the strategist. You're not there to actually run the business, because I'm too old to run the business in the new way. AI, I mean, I wear AI glasses normally, but and stuff like that, but that's about as best as I can go. So I think you just need to relinquish responsibility, like Collette says. Otherwise, you become the single point of failure, 100%.
I think, and I hope people listening to this are picking up lessons and learning. I think that deliberate decision to know where not your limits, because you're more than capable, obviously, but your operational capability needs to shift and it needs to be able to scale. I think being able to show that almost vulnerability and say, I can't do it all. If you carry on like this, I'm the failure. How can we expand and process this? I think it's a big step, because I've seen businesses before where it is the CEO, the owner, we do it like this because that's how we've always done it. And we will continue to do it because that's how I've done it. And therefore you're not building a business, you're just scaling the mindset of the business owner. Yeah, and I just think it's quite commendable, and from the outside looking in, to see that culture develop. And in terms of the culture and the recruitment side of things, Collette, you recently took on a CRM specialist. I mean, tell me about that journey, because how did you find what goes on in Paul's mind, what goes on in your mind, and package that and find the right person for that role? How do you do this as you start to grow?
So one thing that assisted me with that is, I think marketing, say CRM marketing, it's a very broad topic. And I think when I did my Help to Grow course with the local university, there was a marketing module, and it was kind of invaluable, because as someone that's in that leadership position of the business, on the surface, you're going to have all this marketing paraphernalia thrown at you, and like SEOs and websites, and for me, that all felt just very surface level marketing. I was very aware that there was far more to, as we've worked with you, but I wanted to know about like our customer personas. How are people buying? Where does Delta Xero's fit in that? What's our value proposition? And so I knew I needed someone that had more marketing analytical awareness than just be able to create, a fancy website, which we're currently redoing our website. And he has been invaluable in his input with regarding to that, with his research and about the SEOs. But he's been able to advise and inform me on the actual benefit of these things, rather than just being like, yeah, okay, I need that, I'll pay for that. I'm able to make more conscious and informed decisions because he's able to, help me and explain these things to me. And with regards to the CRM, I was fully aware that we have like a lot of low-hanging fruit in that CRM. As we expand, like you say, it's really just been Paul looking after our existing customer base. And so, but Paul's been looking after existing customers, distributor customers. He's been head of technical, head of sales, and he's been wearing all these hats. And that information, like you say, you need to unlock that. That's all in his head. So the CRM was a perfect place, because I love information, and as the CRMs and the systems you use are only as good as the information you put in them. So it's something that throughout all the years, we've always populated our systems. So there's so much information within them, and I was able to build and configure the system to a point that suited us. And that's when I realized this could be better. And it's all been waiting for the pieces of the jigsaw to come into place. That, we knew that we were going to need someone to look after the CRM and the marketing, but I didn't necessarily need them until I had the additional salespeople in place because I need the additional salespeople in place to be populating the CRM. And then he can help with the systems of the CRM and also then bringing you guys involved. But again, I needed to have the salespeople in place and in situ in order to then roll out what we're working towards. It's patience. Nothing happens overnight.
I think the important thing is there that the relinquishing responsibility to people who know what they're doing. I never met Dilip till the day he started work. So that just shows the point where I think you need to be as someone in my position where you trust the people there, the staff, your right-hand man or and the CEO, etc., and your partner. If you can do that, then you'll grow the business a lot quicker because you're relying on people who know what they're doing. Do I know anything about marketing CRM? No, I'm awful at that and I don't like it and I don't want to do it. So when he came on board, it was like, thank you very much. You know, it was the best thing that happened.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important thing from the vision moving forward. Allow people to empower them into doing the right thing for the company. And I knew it would happen obviously with Collette and Joe, who's been her mentor, without a doubt. So, and obviously it's worked because he's superb.
Yeah, I mean, Paul just touched on, I think, honestly, a lot of it comes down to having a great team because as we've grown, you learn to rely on them heavily and the trust is key. So when you trust the people around you, you therefore can stay focused on what really matters and stop trying to do everything yourself. And I think that's also a huge enabler.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
No, I think there's a lot of lessons around the giving responsibility, knowing what problems you're trying to solve. People often jump to tools to fix a problem they don't know they've got yet. You've identified the problem. Paul knows you've got to relinquish responsibility somewhere. It's a great case study, I think, around how to grow what's going to be a very successful business. And I guess as we move just into a bit of closing here and a bit of perhaps some reflection time, looking back, Paul, Collette, what have you learned most about yourself?
I've got a few things I could summarise, I guess. Firstly, it's a lesson in life rather than in business, but I think is that it's amongst all of this, it's very important to look after yourself as well in it. It's quite a basic lesson, but if you don't look after yourself, then you're no good to anyone. Like I say, you need to be the best version of yourself especially when you start scaling, because you then feel this responsibility towards, like, say, your team members. And I think, that's important for me, is to have that perspective. So looking back at what you've achieved and valuing the people around you and just knowing I like to be that steady presence in the business.
I think for me, I think looking back, relinquishing responsibility for tasks that you're average at is not failure, it's success to the right people. And again, you need to support your staff, and the right staff for me are hugely important. If I disappear for 6 weeks, the business still runs. Why? Because all the staff are here. If they all disappear, the business will fall over because I can't do what they do. So I think the important thing is relinquishing your responsibility and understanding, failure is not doing that. It's actually trying to do it all yourself, because that's empowering yourself, and you don't need to do that. We're all good at certain things, not everything. And the people who are good at everything invariably the ones that fail anyway, or they're telling fibs because it's somebody else behind them actually doing it for them. So, and I know that I've seen it so many times, but certainly, I think looking back for me, I maybe relinquished responsibility earlier. And it wasn't because I was that sort of egotistical person. It was more getting the right people to do it,
isn't it?
And timing and obviously cost. You're a small business. We like to grow organically. Now, obviously, we're flying now, so we're in a very good position. But certainly, I think that'd be the only thing I'd probably change and look back. Would I do it slightly differently? Relinquishing responsibility because I think I'd failed was not the point. It was just making sure we had the right things, etc. Yeah, at the right time. Totally agree. Yeah.
I think there's such an awareness from both of you about what it takes to develop, and that deliberate act, looking after yourself, being aware of relinquishing responsibility. They're big things, and I think a lot of business owners or smaller businesses that are scaling like you might learn a lot from listening to, because I see it often. Common pitfalls. They're just holding on to everything, and they look exhausted and they look ill, and it's just like, what are you actually doing it for? I mean, come on, let's get it back to a purpose a little bit.
Yeah,
try and have fun.
Yeah,
I think it's
exactly.
a great takeaway. And I guess just very finally in closing, what's next for Delta Xero? Where are you guys headed in the next few years?
Oh, well, I've got some more technology we'll be releasing sometime this year. Our strip technology that I've been working on that's something I'm going to commercialize. But I think from the normal business perspective as it is now, I think we just need to expand into more sectors. I mean, we're getting very heavily into wind now. Landfill gas engines is something I worked on many years ago. We're going to rekindle that, which is something I'm able to do because we bring staff on board and I can get involved in that. We've had some great successes. But I think expanding the business and expanding the staff.
From my perspective, just as Paul was saying, going into more sectors, for me, the next phase for scaling the business is that market reach and that market penetration. You know, we've already got the foundations here now. So we've got the credibility, we know the product works, we've got the passion in promoting it. It literally now is about pushing Delta Xero out further, and building on the case studies and fine-tuning and growing our marketing material and our packs, like distribution packs, in order to help support distributors. I think it's now more, we have the business, it's just getting the product out there in larger volumes.
I think the foundation's been built now, and I think like bringing on people like yourself, Plan, Grow, Do, to actually set up the sales process and the process behind that now, to actually push it out there. That's the important thing. We built the foundation now. We've got a very solid foundation. Wherever we go, we can expand it very simply because the process is there. It's now looking at how we get out there, the marketplace, and get the reach. And that's something that I'm not 100% good at now. I'm too slightly old school. But then I like the innovation of it. So I'm looking forward to that part of it. I think that's what's going to push us out and be very successful globally if we can make that work, which I know we can. Well, I know Collette will be able to. I'll just step back and do as I'm told. It's easier.
Yeah. You'll go sit on a laptop on an aeroplane or do a jigsaw.
Exactly. Absolutely. You got it, Rob. Yeah.
Listen, Paul and Collette, it's been wonderful chatting to you and getting to know more about you two and working together and the ambition. I think there's lessons galore in this conversation. So thank you so much for taking time to do so. Appreciate it. I know you're very, very busy. Where can those listening stay connected? Where can we find out more about you personally or your journey? Where can we go?
Well, we have our LinkedIn, which we're regularly posting on, but we've also recently set up a YouTube channel. So we're now having frequent uploads to YouTube. So again, that'll be another expansion area that I want to try and look at utilizing, is that creating potentially like how-to playlists, just so people have quick references to go to. So yeah, I'm digressing, but yeah, mainly LinkedIn.
That's all. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Probably sat in
listen,
an
both
airport lounge.
Yeah, somewhere if you're lucky enough to bump into him.
Or only
grab a
fans, Rob.
coffee
But
or
I'm not on there anymore.
Cut that out.
You can cut that bit out.
Is that another innovation of yours?
No, certainly not.
That stays in.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Brilliant. Paul, Collette, thank you so much for joining us. Been a blast. Really enjoyed that. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond the Blend. Be sure to follow us to catch next and future episodes as we continue to explore the people within the lubricant market.